start off with Robbie, and we'll go to Steve.
Coach, Robbie Falk from On3 and the Starkville Daily News. You had an incredibly heartfelt message there about your time at Virginia, and it's, as we know, it's been difficult for teams to come pluck you from Virginia. What was it about Mississippi State that you felt like this was the time and this was the place that this is where you needed to be?
Well, so much goes into that, right? That's a long answer probably that we don't all have time for, but this is an incredibly special place here in Starkville. Certainly the program is supported at the highest level, right? And the history and tradition that's behind this program. But Zach Selman was a big part of this. I felt like if I was going to leave this place that I loved and worked at for 22 years, it had to be the right partnership, first and foremost. And then, it had to be the place that you felt like you could be as successful as possible, right? I poured everything into that program in Charlottesville, and the timing was lined up from the standpoint of where I was at in my career and where my family was at. Yes, there's been a lot of schools over the years that have reached out about their jobs, but make no mistake about it, this was the right one for Brian O'Connor to take a different path in his career.
Steve?
Coach Steve Robertson with Jeans Page 247 Sports. You have a reputation in pro baseball as being a guy that's a great evaluator and developer, but also a guy that's difficult to beat with signees. Like your signees typically come to school. How have you been so successful in kind of retaining those guys?
Yeah, you know what? I've always looked at the process that a young man goes through at 18 years old in considering the Major League Baseball draft. That is a great opportunity for those young men, right? And they have to, with their families, make their own individual decision about what direction that they want to go with their life at the age of 18, right? And so I have never and do not talk a player out of signing out of high school. What I talk to them about is between the age of 18 and 21, how do they want to live their life and what do they look like their development path is? The two paths are different, okay? This path, you choose a coaching staff that every day is going to be a part of their development, and it's going to be the consistency every day and every year in their development until they're eligible for the draft again. All right. And what's happened is you start to prove a track record of development, right? And those kids, those young men see that this is a great path and avenue for them. I believe in these two words. It's about being prepared and equipped for whatever it is you do in life, right? Whether it's to be a college baseball player, whether it's to be a college coach. And I believe that college baseball, especially at this level, prepares those young men to be prepared and equipped for their professional careers. So that's really it. That's what's behind it, all right? It's not a sales pitch. It's real, it's genuine, and it helps them choose what the best path for them is.
Sam?
Hey Brian, Sam Scar with the Clarion Ledger. Just in terms of institutional support, it's pretty clear Mississippi State is very committed to baseball and winning at the highest level. Just from a coach's perspective, how helpful is that, or how important is that, when you're trying to win and win championships?
Well, it's incredibly important. It's not everything, right? It starts with the selection of the young men that you bring into the program, and that they're the right young men that you want to be part of your team, right? But obviously the support's here. This stadium, this fan base, right? Everything that goes on with that to attract and retain the right talent to give your program the chance to win championships. I'll say this, The University of Virginia is totally committed to it. Okay? And so is Mississippi State. But listen, there's a lot of programs in the SEC. Everybody is committed to it. It's not that at Mississippi State we have more than anybody else. We just need to have enough to retain and attract the right young men.
Colin?
Hey Brian, Colin Dams, Commercial Dispatch.
Yeah.
There's been cultural investment for a long time in Mississippi State baseball, and I know with the changes in college sports now, obviously investment is a term that's used in many different ways, but how much does cultural investment matter when you're trying to convince a young man to buy into your program and your vision?
Well, cultural investment, it's got to start from that, right? And I'll tell you what I did was on Tuesday and Wednesday, I sat down with every Mississippi State player that had eligibility left for a half-hour meeting. Those 2 days were long days, but they were great days, right? Because I got to understand from them, the guys that wore the uniform, what this place means to them, right? What the fan base means to them, right? And that's that cultural investment that is so important. And it's in those young men, it's in their blood, right? You could see it and hear it when you talk to them. So it has to start with that, right? Is the cultural investment in order to be successful. Because that's a big part of their experience here at Mississippi State.
Go to Doug, then Steve.
Coach Doug Kyle, College Baseball Central.
Hey, Doug.
Monty Taylor sends his congratulations to you. Virginia, the ACC, Mississippi State, SEC, all household names in college baseball.
Yes.
The short time you've been here, has there been a few things that you expected to find the way you did, and then has there been a pleasant surprise?
I expected it, fully expected it, right? You coached a game in this stadium when I was the pitching coach at Notre Dame. We got left on the field, right? And you walked out of this place and you knew what it was about, right? Obviously, 25 years later, it's grown and grown, right? You knew the passion of the people that support Mississippi State baseball. I knew all of that. I didn't know that the last 4 days would be as fast as it is, and there'd be so much thrown at you, right? That is what it is. It's been about 3 or 4 hours of sleep each of the last 4 nights, right? But tonight was amazing, right? Tonight showed what this place is about. I did not expect tonight. Over the last 2 days when they started building a stage on the infield grass, right, and they started the ribbons and things like that, I told, one of my guys that's here with me, I said, what is all this, right? And he said, Coach, this is the celebration they have planned. I'm like, wow, that's going to be awesome. So we'll get to learn more that we don't know. There's a lot that we don't know, but you can feel the energy and enthusiasm that everybody has for this baseball program.
Go to Steve and Robbie.
Coach, I know every year and every roster is a little bit different, but ideally, how do you kind of see roster composition? What would you like to see as maybe balance between high school and development and portal guys?
Well, I really believe in the high school player. The high school player has to be the foundation of any consistent, successful college baseball program. It starts there because you bring them into the program and you have an opportunity for 3 or 4 years for them to continue to develop, and you have a plan and understand what you have coming back the next year, right? So that's crucial. The exact breakdown, I don't know. It probably depends on what the roster size ends out being to answer that question. But I think you have to look at 8 to 10 high school players in a class depending on what your needs are, right? And then you fill in from there, and if you're developing them like they should develop, then maybe you don't have to go into the transfer portal as much, right? But you know, the 2026 Mississippi State baseball team, right? My priority, the reason I met with those young men on Tuesday and Wednesday, is my number one priority is for the young men that possess the ability, have the skill set, and think the right way, that they're on the bus, okay? And then after we've done that, we evaluate and say, what are the other pieces of the puzzle that we need to put the best team on the field for the 2026 season?
Robbie?
Coach, the majority of your staff looks like your guys, and Coach McMullen and Coach Kirby in particular have been with you for a long time. Kind of a two-parter. First of all, just looking at those guys specifically, how important have they been for your program to accomplish what you wanted to? And then secondly, retaining Coach Parker, what went into that decision? How important did you feel like that was for this year and moving forward?
Yeah. Well, Coach McMullen has been right by my side for 22 years. Okay? I happen to feel that he's the best hitting coach and developing of position players in the country. How do you judge that, right? Well, you judge that by, one, wins on the field, but you judge it by guys going into pro ball and making the major leagues, right? And our position player development that we've had over the last 22 years, I'd stack it up with anybody, right? And so I've always believed in a coaching staff that consistency is important for the player development, right? And his consistency over 22 years is a big part of this. So I'm excited that he's joined us in Starkville. Matt Kirby has been on our staff for 14 years. He's our recruiting coordinator, also works with our hitters, our catchers, our outfielders, and he is loyal as the day is long. He is dedicated to it, right? And, you know, again, it shows the consistency. Regarding the pitching coach, I did not intentionally name a pitching coach. I felt like that we really needed on this staff somebody who had connections in the Southeast, right, from a recruiting standpoint. You know, a couple of things in Justin Parker's favor is that, you know, he's coached 4 years in the SEC, right? He knows this league. Last year in the NCAA regional in Charlottesville, I got to witness him firsthand competing against him in the regional and watch his pitchers compete and watch them execute. And they had one of the best staffs in the SEC a year ago, right? And I see the young pitchers that are on this pitching staff, you know, Foster, Burns, McPherson, others, right? Can't name them all, right? And I've seen the talent that they have, and I'm excited about the progression, right? And then it goes to Coach Parker as a pitching coach. Not only is he a developer of their skill and going to help them not only win for Mississippi State, but also be successful after their time here, I happen to feel he's also a good man that is the fiber of what he's about is what I'm about. So what I did was got here to town after they returned from Tallahassee. Coach Parker and I spent 6 different times together. Some of those 30 minutes, some of those up to 2 hours, right? To get a really good understanding of what he's about, what he believes in pitching development, okay? Yeah, I, you know, certainly had conversations with other candidates and things like that. That's part of the process, right? But ultimately landed on he is the man that is most qualified and best here at Mississippi State to lead this pitching staff moving forward.
Brian, then